Hey dudes, I'm Hilah, and today on Hilah Cooking I have a very special treat. It's filled with cream. Can you guess what it is? If you've read the news, you probably can. We're gonna make homemade Twinkies because I got a few requests for it, but honestly, as soon as we heard that Hostess was going bankrupt, Chris was like, Eureka, we gotta make homemade Twinkies. So that's what I did all day yesterday, was experiment with recipes for sponge cakes. I've come up with a pretty good facsimile of a Twinkie so that in the interim between the bankruptcy and the inevitable Hostess buyout by like China or Levi's, we can all still have our Twinkies. All right, before we get to the fun part, we need to make some little molds, little cups like this. I'm going to show you how to fold those up. So I've got this piece of foil here. It's about 12 by 14 inches. Just want to fold it into quarters. Once it's in quarters, you want to, basically we want a rectangle that's about 7 inches by about 3.5 or 4 inches. Just sort of fold up the edges however you must to get approximately that size. And then I've got a spice jar here. This is just, I think this one was like almost 2 inches diameter by about 4.5 inches. So try to get that size if you can. So now I've got this little piece of foil here. I'm going to flip it over so I've got the smooth side up. I'm going to lay this down lengthwise. Kind of roll it up, fold in the bottom like you're wrapping up the world's shittiest Christmas present. Fold those little triangles back like that. And then once you get this end done, it's easiest, I've found, if you set it up, go ahead and set it like that. Son of a bitch. That's never happened before. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And then you can fold up this other end like so. And pull your spice thing out, and you've got a reasonably close shape to a little Twinkie bar. If this seems too tedious or wasteful for you, which I freely admit it is both, you can buy what's called a canoe pan, and I'll link to a couple of those. I only found them on Amazon, but I'll link to that. It's just like a pan with these mold shapes. You can also do this in a cupcake pan, I found out, if you don't care about what they look like, or even those corn stick things that look like little corn on the cob, those little molds that you put cornbread in, those would probably work too, but I haven't tried that. Okay, so we'll just want to make 12 of these little dudes and just pretend like I already did that. Don't pretend, I actually already did. For our cake batter, we're just going to make a really simple sponge cake, and sponge cake is just kind of a low sugar cake, but it always involves egg yolks, and then the egg whites are beaten up separately till they're really stiff, and then fold it in carefully to make a really light batter. So we're going to start with separating the eggs. I'm doing it this way. If you have a better way that you feel more confident, that's fine, but this is the way I like to do it. You just want to be super duper duper careful, cannot stress it enough. Do not contaminate your egg whites with any yolk. Any kind of oil or protein, fat that contaminates your whites is going to completely prevent them from fluffing up. So if you're a little bit new to separating eggs, you probably would want to separate each one into its own bowl so that if the yolk breaks and contaminates your egg white, you don't ruin all the egg whites. But I like to live on the edge, y'all. All right, so I'm going to set these aside, the whites, and we're going to go ahead and start beating up our egg yolks. About a minute, kind of on medium speed. Okay, so about a minute later, our eggs are all kind of real loose, mixed up good. I'm going to slowly add in our sugar. Make sure all the sides, make sure everything's in there. And I'm going to put the beaters back in and let it go on medium-high heat for about 3 minutes till it's really very well incorporated. Okay, so you can see how light this is now. While that was beating up, I went ahead and started a kettle with some boiling water in it. So we're going to now turn it onto low heat and add some boiling water and the rest of our liquids, which is some vanilla extract and some lemon juice. And this isn't going to make them taste like lemon at all. It just adds an acidity that they need to rise. And just check and make sure that everything on the bottom is combined here. Smelling like Twinkies. And then back to low. And then this is some cake flour and baking powder and salt. And cake flour is different than standard all-purpose flour in that it's made from a softer wheat grain and it's milled finer. So it's good for doing like angel food cakes and sponge cakes and things like that. I think you probably could use all-purpose flour as long as you sift it a couple of times, but I'm not positive, so don't quote me on that. All right, we're just gonna put this in a little bit at a time. Okay, great. So now this is all combined, and it's already a pretty light batter, as you can see, but we still are gonna add our beaten egg whites, so it's gonna be so beautiful and fluffy. For our egg whites, I've got a clean bowl here and a whisk. If you don't have 2 bowls for your mixer, you can do that first step by hand. It just is gonna take a little bit longer to get it as light and fluffy as you need. Just make sure that your bowl for your egg whites is really, really clean and doesn't have any trace of grease or anything on it. If you're worried about it, you can wipe it down with some vinegar or lemon juice to remove any kind of oil that might prohibit this from fluffing up. So just put your egg whites in there, and I'm gonna add a little bit of cream of tartar, which is an acid, I think tartaric acid. It just helps stabilize the egg whites and helps them fluff up higher and higher and bigger. So we're just gonna put this on as high as it'll go for probably like 3 minutes or so. Let's see, we'll time it. Okay, so with a heavy duty mixer, that was nowhere near 3 minutes. It was like 30 seconds. But you want it like this. See how like there's a little bit clinging in the bottom of the bowl. When you lift it up, it makes a tiny little peak, but it doesn't look dry. It still looks very wet and shiny. If it looks dry, you've probably overbeaten it. So at this point, this looks great. We're gonna go ahead and fold it into our first mixture here. To fold in egg whites, you wanna start out just adding about a quarter of the mixture, a quarter of the egg whites to your batter. And then folding is just gently mixing. So scraping up the bottom, going around the sides, kind of doing a little like figure 8 through your mixture. And this first part mixing in, you can be a little bit rough with it because all we're trying to do right now is lighten the first batter enough so that when we mix in the rest of the egg whites, it doesn't just all go flat. So you can see this batter has already like almost doubled in volume just from mixing in that little bit of egg white. That's all good and you don't see any streaks anywhere. You can add the rest and just be gentle with it, but still bending it to your will. And you definitely don't want to overmix it because you don't want to break all those bubbles that we've created. So this looks perfect. We're ready to fill our molds, which I need to actually first generously grease. This is about one of the only times I use spray oil. If you're trying to like grease a bunch of tiny things, it sure is handy. But kind of gross too. So we just want to pour this in, fill them up about halfway. Okay, and then we're just gonna put these in the oven for about 15 minutes until the tops are set and just starting to turn a little bit golden brown. So I'm gonna make our filling now, our icing. I'm just gonna do a really quick powdered sugar icing. So I've got some soft butter in my bowl here and a little bit of heavy cream and some vanilla. And if you want your filling to be white, like Twinkies, you should use shortening, but I'm using butter because it's tastier. I'm just gonna beat this up till it's fluffy. And now we'll put it onto low speed and just start gradually adding some powdered sugar until it's a good thickness. Okay, good, this is nice. This is what we're looking for. Something that holds a little bit of a shape, but still is gonna be soft enough that when we go to cram it into our Twinkie cakes, you know, we can actually pipe it through a little Ziploc bag. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put this in a Ziploc bag and come back to it when our cakes are cool. So these are properly baked. They've been cooling on this rack until they're cool enough to handle. So when they're done, you can see like the edges have started to pull away from the foil. They're just barely light brown and they're real sort of springy and spongy feeling, hence the name. So we're just gonna unwrap them from their little origami canoes. We're gonna fill them up now. I've got my icing in a Ziploc bag here and just wanna cut off a really small hole, like maybe just like 1/4 of an inch little hole there. And then we're gonna take these, so just with a chopstick, sort of poke 3 holes along the center and don't go all the way through, obviously. Get your little icing tip coming out there. Just sort of jam it in there and squeeze gently and slowly. And you can kind of feel on the back side with your hand, you can kind of feel the icing going in. And you can almost like see this top part like puff up a little bit as it fills. So you don't want to overfill it because you could break the cake, but you don't want to underfill it because nothing says lame like an underfilled Twinkie. So there we go. We have our beautiful little homemade Twinkies here. So I'll break it open for you and there we go. A little icing center there. So let's give her a taste. That's pretty damn close to the real thing, you dudes. You dudes. All right, well, there you go. There's how to make some homemade Twinkies. For the record, I think it's a damn shame that Hostess is having problems, and my heart really goes out to everyone who's losing their jobs. If you work for Hostess or you know someone that does, I'd really love to hear your side of the story, so leave it in the comments below. If you have any questions about the recipe, leave those and I'll get to them over at Hilah Cooking. And as always, this recipe is available in printable format with all the instructions and ingredients at HilahCooking.com. So there you go, have some Twinkies and boner appetit.